We're live.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, March the 28th. Before we begin, I would just ask that everybody who's able, please stand for the playing of the national anthem. And at this time, we would also like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. Just the standard reminder to members that any pecuniary interest must be declared both verbally and in writing, and those can be filed with the clerk. Can I have a motion to adopt two sets of minutes, one from our regular council meeting of March 14th, and then the other for the special council meeting of last Monday, March 21st. Moved by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Buffett. Any discussion on those? All in favor? It's carried. Were there any questions submitted tonight, Jennifer?
No, sir, not this evening.
All right. Okay, so we have one proclamation this evening. April the 2nd is Autism Awareness Day. And this is one that's been recognized in the town of Shelburne for a number of years. And that is certainly thanks in no small measure to the efforts of Dina Avison, who is a local resident, who's been a strong advocate of children dealing with autism. Two of her grandchildren, I believe it is, have autism, and she's certainly gone above and beyond to advocate on their behalf. In years prior to COVID, Dina has been able to successfully organize a number of fundraisers in partnership with Shelburne Golf and Country Club, and they've raised an awful lot of money over the years that they've donated to local schools to help provide support for children in our community who are on the spectrum. So thanks, Dina, if you're watching. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas autism is a pervasive developmental disorder affecting the social, communication, and behavioral skills of those affected by it, and whereas more health professionals are becoming proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the autism spectrum, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 68 children nationally. And whereas there is no cure for autism, it is well documented that if individuals with autism receive early and intensive treatment throughout their lives, they lead significantly improved lives. And whereas individuals with autism often require a lifetime of specialized and community support services to ensure their health and safety and to support families' resilience as they manage the psychological and financial burdens that autism can present. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Wade Mills, on behalf of the council of the town of Shelburne, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2022 as Autism Awareness Day in the town of Shelburne, and urge all residents to participate in autism awareness activities in order to become better educated about autism and create a better community for individuals with autism. And we will be doing a flag raising on Friday, April the 1st, in honor of this day, and that's at 11:45, I believe. Okay, and that will be at the flagpole at Jack Downing Park, which is just across from Town Hall. So we have one delegation this evening. We have Althea Ali from Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation. Althea, welcome.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Congratulations on the new formal distinction of your organization.
Thank you. Jennifer, so I don't know how to share the presentation.
Okay, I have the PDF loaded, so I'll share the screen. And
Okay.
you just let me know when to flip to the next slide.
Awesome. There was just one small change in the last page in the ask, and I'll just add that on as we talk.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure. There you go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this exciting information with you. We're pleased to announce that we have now become a registered nonprofit organization. Do you mind changing to the next slide?
Oops, sorry.
For those who don't know, we actually started planning the multicultural event in 2017, and we held the first multicultural event in partnership with the Shelburne Library in 2018, and with supporters Miss Sylvia Jones, Councillor Anderson, and our local elementary school, our local police department, and our local fire. And it was a very, very exciting event for our community. In 2019, we doubled in size, and we featured different poetry, foods, and various entertainment from our local high schools and our local elementary schools and the community at large, and majority of Dufferin. Excuse me. In 2020, we had to move to a virtual platform, apologize, due to the pandemic. But it was, again, very successful. Can you change it to the next slide, please? In 2021, it was one of the biggest events, I would say. June 27th, Dufferin County proclaimed June 27th Multicultural Day. We also flew the Unity and Diversity flag in Dufferin County and the different townships. We also had a partnership with the Museum of Dufferin and held the first panel discussion and worked to highlight the achievements of our great leaders who have worked behind the scenes to help build our community. And this was again done in partnership with the MOD and with MP Kyle Seaback, MPP Sylvia Jones, Deputy Anderson, Caledon Councillor Joanna Downey, and our great community partners as well. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, 2022 is a significant year for us because, like I had said, we just became a registered nonprofit organization to better serve our community when it comes to promoting diversity, inclusion, and equity. Our name now is Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation, and we've once again partnered with the Museum of Dufferin to host the 2022 Multicultural event. And as you can see, the flyers, there are a flyer for the event, a call for artist submissions. So any artists who are in Dufferin County and beyond, they are able to submit their art pieces, and a call for performances, so cultural performances from Dufferin County and beyond. Next slide, please. I would like to request from the Shelburne Council to be a registered member of the foundation. A registered member means a $250 payment, and then there's a logo. Your logo will be placed on our website along with a clickable link to your website. We will support your DEI committee on initiatives for, again, the Shelburne community. And we'll share community events and recruitment opportunities on our event page and social media. We're also asking for the committee to help support the multicultural event in sharing on your social media, on your website and the event calendar. And we're asking that our logo be placed on the website under the business or community events, along with a clickable link to our website for any upcoming events that we have. And if we can also have the flag raising ceremony, and again this year in June, and a proclamation for June 27 to be recognized as a Multicultural Day. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank all of you very much for this opportunity to share the Multicultural Foundation with all of you, and for helping me bring this to the community. And is there any questions that I can answer?
All right, thanks, Sophia. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So I don't have a question, and probably my comments are not going to be a surprise to most, but I'm happy to say that since this event started in town, I think back, as Althea mentioned, in 2018 at the Shelburne Library, to certainly what it's become now is a tremendous feat, I believe. The event has grown in size and participation year after year, and that's why the organization's outgrown the library to now having to partner with the museum and utilize a bigger space. And I think in the times that we're in right now, the importance of people coming together, we've seen a number of different events where somehow we've been divided on a number of different issues, and the opportunity to celebrate our differences and our similarities is something that's crucially important, regardless of sort of the times that we're in, but I think especially even now. So I just want to commend you and congratulate you for turning it into a non-for-profit. That's a big move for the organization, so kudos to you. And certainly speaking for myself, I look forward to continue to support the importance of the work that you and your team are doing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, and anybody else? Councillor Bernardo?
I'd like to change the motion that is in the report from staff, and I'd rather put forward a motion that the town of Shelburne donate the $250 to the Dufferin County Multicultural Foundation to become a yearly member.
Thank you.
If I can find someone to second that, I'd be happy.
Seconded by Councillor Buffett. Councillor Wagner, do you have a question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I know, this is wonderful. I think it's great. I congratulate you on your achievement. Just a quick question though. I think, didn't we, during the grant process, give $3,000 for the multicultural event?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so I guess this would be different for requesting another $250. You couldn't, I guess, I don't know how the financials work, obviously, of course, to, maybe use some of that money from the $3,000 grant that we gave in order to become a member this year. And then moving forward, as Councillor Bernardo said, we would then, commit to becoming a member each year at the $250 mark. My secondary question would be whether or not that $250 year, I would assume it would potentially change, right? Like, I don't know if you could not raise your prices with the rate of inflation. So I don't know if that would have to be in the motion or not, that, obviously moving forward, we couldn't make a motion for it to only be $250 because you might need $260 next year or $275, right? So I don't know if at next year we would have to just revisit that and adjust it accordingly. Whatever, just throwing that out there.
If I may, I think I could comment on at least the first portion of Councilor Wagner's comments about using the community grant and sort of, in essence, should we have something separate considering that we've done the community grant? And the example that I'll give is with, for example, the Dufferin Canadian County Black Association. They received a grant, and I believe if not all municipalities in Dufferin County have signed on to be partners. So this is not something that doesn't have a precedent ahead of it.
Mhm.
And so I see it as something being separate from the money that has been given. And like I said, there are other organizations that have done the exact same thing, and other municipalities have signed on as well. So I believe even the town of Shelburne may have given, or maybe have signed on as a partner or as a sponsor for the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association as well. So I put that out there. But the second part of the question, certainly, Althea, you can answer that as to whether you'd be raising your rates every year.
So because this, and I agree with the second part of what Councillor Wagner said as well, because I can't guarantee that it will be $250 next year. Again, it just depends on how many people we are servicing in the community, and all of this money actually goes directly to the community and the foundation expenses. Everyone who is with the foundation we don't get paid, we're volunteers. So all of this money goes back into workshops, bursaries, any events that we hold for the community. So it honestly depends on if a workshop is being hosted by an expert coming in, and then the expert is, twice the price next year than they are this year. So it really all depends.
I think procedurally, I mean, in terms of authorizing membership dues, that's something that should be done annually anyways. I don't think we can commit to, providing membership in perpetuity. So I think that's something that we can just deal with on an ongoing annual basis. Carrie, just one question before I flip over to Councillor Bernardo. How much money do we have left in the community grant envelope? I'm assuming that's where this would come from.
Yeah, I was going to ask that where you wanted this to be paid out of. We did have $2,500 under miscellaneous for one-off, grants that would come up throughout the year, and we did give 2,000 of that to the farmers market. So
Right.
There's $500 left for the year.
Okay. Councillor Bernardo and then Councillor Fegan.
I don't, in my motion, doesn't mean that the 250 is going to be ongoing for yearly. Basically, all I put into the motion is that we become a yearly member. So as the mayor said, every year, they will have to come in front of council with whatever the amount is, and the council of the day will have to approve it. All it does is means that we want to become yearly members of this foundation. On the second part, I agree with the deputy mayor. The $3,000, I believe, that we donated to the the organization is for events or for things other than the membership. The membership is a different item altogether. That's the way I read it. That's why I put forward the motion for us to become members. It's no different than if you're a member of the, not the Boy Scouts, but any other organization. You pay into that organization to be a member. Whatever the cost is, you pay the cost if you wish to be a member of the organization. If that organization in turn does fundraising or something else, that has nothing to do with your membership. Your membership fees are what they are if you want to be a member. That's one of my comments.
All right, so I have Councillor Fegan and then Councillor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm okay with spending the 250 for this year. However, I would make the request that all years going forward, requests like this be put forward during the grant funding request, simply because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to come back and saying this is double dipping. And I don't want that to be perceived. I know that's not your intention today, And that's why I'm okay with the 250 for this year, but I'm looking forward and looking at where potential problems could arise from this. So my recommendation would be during the grant funding process, make mention of this and make sure that is part of the request.
And again, when we filed the grant application, we were not a foundation yet. We did not have our papers to even present that.
Okay, Councillor Wagner and then Councillor Hall.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Mills. Yeah, please don't take my questions as not wanting to support you or anything like that, because that's not the case. Basically, what I'm trying to avoid is having anyone else who has applied for the grant funds or whatnot come forward and say that it's just not fair, right? Like so that's why I'm asking, questions and following up, because I don't know if Carrie knows this or can answer this, sorry. But I believe the membership fee or the membership within the Dufferin Black Canadian Association was included in their grant request. So again, that's the only reason why I've brought this kind of forward, because I just want to try to make sure that we are as equal and fair as possible. But I also agree, with sentiments by Councillor Fegan that I have no problems with offering this 250. Of course, I think the work you're going to do is going to be wonderful and well needed within the community. But I just want to make sure that we're trying to be as fair as possible, of course, right? But again, please don't take my questions as not wanting to support.
Councillor Hall.
Very similar to Councillor Wagner. I was just going to ask Carrie if she can confirm with us, because my understanding was the membership for the other item we were talking about or referring to was in fact with the grant funding. So I just wanted clarification on that item first.
Do you know offhand, Carrie?
Thank you. And through the mayor, yes, we have paid the grant of $5,000 for the past 2 years for the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, and we've never been asked to pay an additional membership fee on top of that. So whether they take it out of our donation, I don't have their application in front of me, but we've never paid a separate membership fee in addition to the donation.
Anything else, Councillor Hall?
Well, it just provides a little bit more clarification. Again, as Councillor Wagner alluded to, I think it needs to be fair and equitable for all, and how we've done things with the other associations, I think, is how we need to maintain doing things with all the associations moving forward.
All right. Any other questions or comments before I call the question? Okay, so motion moved by Bernardo, seconded by Buffett, essentially to receive the presentation and to authorize the expenditure of $250 for the annual membership for 2022, I guess. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? It looks like that's carried anyways. Okay. Motion's carried. Thanks, Althea. Look forward to this year's event.
Thank you very much.
Okay, council inquiries. Any inquiries for tonight? Deputy Mayor Anderson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mills. I'd like to inquire from staff if we can be provided with an update regarding the RFP for the tennis court. I know the last time we had spoken about this, there was mention of some difficulties obtaining submissions for the RFP. It may have been maybe put out late, or I can't remember what the issues were surrounding it, but the fact is we weren't able to get one. And so I know that obviously the spring and the summer months are fast approaching. And I just wanted to see where we are with respect to that RFP so that we're not missing it this year.
Denise?
Through yourself. So yes, the RFP was issued. We didn't have any responses. We were advised that the project was probably too small for many companies during COVID to schedule. We have been working independently with 2 different firms so that elements of the project can go forward. The project is moving forward within the existing budget. We are going to be looking at potentially the 2 courts if we can financially support it and come back to council quickly if that's viable. So our anticipated completion date is around August. If we can push it July, but August this year to have 1 court, which is a dual court with pickleball being the secondary use. And that's within the existing budget of $200,000.
Is there, this is a follow-up to that, is August the date that is being suggested by the individuals that you've been speaking to or the companies? Is there a possibility that that date could be moved up earlier than August?
Yes, that's the date they've given us because they have to coordinate with one another and also for construction timelines. That's what they've advised us would be the completion date. Again, if we can get them to get it earlier, right now we have significant frost in the ground, so any pre-work isn't even physically possible. But certainly if the project can be completed earlier, we'll advise council.
Right, thank you.
Councilor Bernardo.
I have a few inquiries. One is for, maybe Jim can answer this one. I'd like to know if we had to pay any cost on the replacement of the telephone box on Park Avenue that was damaged by our snow blower. I noticed that it was moved back quite a piece from the sidewalk. And with the fact that we have a couple of other places in the town that have problems, I'm just wondering if they did it at their cost or if we were unfortunately dinged for it.
Through your worship, no, I'm not aware of any costs that came to us for any of the Bell hardware on Park for sure. We haven't seen any invoices or anything on that, so that must have just been taken care of by Bell, the utilities.
So as a follow-up to that, I don't see why we're being so protective of the other boxes. If we ding them just as badly as we ding the one on Park, maybe they'll move them suckers back away from the sidewalk and allow for the sidewalk plow to go through. Sorry, that's just a comment on my part. The other question I have is regarding staff can maybe let us know when we are going to be ending Zoom meetings and coming back as a council and where we'll be having those council meetings. You should know that after this March 21st mask off, I was going to ask that question.
Who wants to tackle that one, Denise?
So I think that's sort of a segue from the vaccination policy. We had identified that in the 2022 budget, there was money to rent the Town and Country Room at the CDRC based on the requirement for continued physical distancing and other COVID-related restrictions, all of which have been lifted. So that would be certainly council's discretion on if you wanted to review alternative locations outside of the existing council chambers and whether that would be a paid use of that facility that's not budgeted for in 2022, modifying and using the Grace Tippling Hall, similar to the way the presentations were done with the policing review is one option. I think if there was a return to the existing council chambers, you probably would want the input of staff and others with respect to the proximity of that. I mean, people are literally shoulder to shoulder in that small space, but certainly that could be something we could bring a report back if you would like to look at options for the duration of 2022 and when you would like that initiated.
I don't want to go back to the closet, that's for sure. I'll wait then, I guess, for whatever report or whenever we can do that.
So sorry, Mayor Milster, Councillor Brown, I just want to clarify right now, if you would like us to bring a report back, we can,
Yes.
But we had originally said that we wouldn't be having in-person meetings for the duration of 2022 based on the budget for 2022. So if we're not going to use the existing council chambers, we have 2 options. Grace Tippling Hall. The only challenge with Grace Tippling Hall will be if there are performances that are booked, and many of them on the weekends, which spill over into Mondays for their tear down, or alternatively a 2-week production, which I guess is rare, but it still does happen, that would impact the viability of either two things, the production or the use and or the council meeting in that venue, which could then need to be changed to the CDRC. If we rent the CDRC Town and Country Room, we'll have to revisit the costs per each Monday and bring that back to you just to incorporate that within the 2022 budget and where you'd like it to be spent from, or what other costs you'd like us to eliminate. Or alternatively, the third option is we would assign a portion of the 2021 surplus, which we have yet to report. So sorry, that was like a report in a council inquiry.
Well, I just find it kind of funny that we would have productions in the Rose Tippling Hall and have people come in to see the productions, yet we as council have to meet at a Zoom because we can't meet together. We have no location or anything to meet. I just sort of find that weird.
Just on that point, Councillor Bernardo, just before we leave that one, and I don't want to belabor it, but County Council is going to be receiving a report, I believe, at our April 14th meeting about how County Council moves forward. Jennifer, do you have a sense from any of the other lower tiers in the county what approach is being taken?
I believe at the moment, the only council meeting in person is the Township of Amaranth. The town of Mono is looking at a hybrid approach, and the majority are still meeting utilizing Zoom video conferencing.
My understanding is Orangeville is also looking at a hybrid model.
Yeah, Denise, if you could maybe just bring back a report kind of setting out the options that are available and the costs associated with them, and then I mean as a group we can make a decision. But
sure, certainly.
Okay.
And I guess the final question I have is in regards to something I heard on the news tonight about the YMCA and our premier being fond of saying he would like to see a lot of YMCAs go up, especially with the new announcement from the federal government regarding childcare and the fact that YMCA does a job of providing that. And he wants to see it go up in underserviced areas. And I know that our area has been declared underserviced many, many years ago, and it was something that we were pursuing. So I'm wondering, again, this is directed to staff in total, is there a possibility that we may again try to pursue for a YMCA to come into the community, not only to provide childcare, to provide some of the other much needed services that are required and provided by the YMCA for our community, as we are one of the fastest growing communities in Canada?
I think we do have a YMCA childcare facility already.
But not as a full building with all the services YMCA provides.
Yeah. Denise, do you have any insight on that?
We can certainly incorporate that announcement within the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. There are, I think we've mentioned before, there are a number of communities that are partnered with the YMCA. They tend to run or be collaborative with the community center. The city of Owen Sound is one example, the city of Niagara Falls. But they are, they would be equivalent to what is currently within the CDRC or expanded. So we certainly can take the feedback from the community on what services they want in rec, particularly indoor, and how that could potentially relate to a new building or infrastructure or alternative service delivery models, et cetera, But usually, they're fairly big buildings. They have indoor pools. They have fitness centers and they're multi-purpose space, and including walking tracks. They're phenomenal facilities usually. They're not inexpensive, and there's usually significant contribution financially by the town, and hybrids, whether it's joint ownership or progressive ownership, that defaults to the town and capital related infrastructure costs as well. So again, we'll incorporate that within the Parks and Recreation Plan. And we can confirm also with that scope of review where the current YMCAs are within our region and beyond. There's also one in Collingwood.
Sorry, if I can do a follow-up on that, with the Premier announcing on the news today that there was a big interest on their part for YMCAs to go up, I'm wondering if the province is also willing to kick in money and we can look at something from them in the way of grants or funding to help us out with the YMCA and our rec centers.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody has an answer for that, but definitely something I think we could look into. I mean, the announcement was just made, but yeah, okay.
And that's the end of my inquiries.
Okay, anybody else? Last call. All right. Okay, so the first report is from our CAO regarding COVID-19 vaccination policy review. So Denise, I'll turn it over to you and you can lead us through your report.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. So this report is addressing a number of announcements as well as directions from both the province and public health that have been revised given COVID-19 and the town of Shelburne's policies, of which we have two. We have one that was directed and outlined in terms of what would be included for staff. And council also approved their own policy, which is applicable to yourselves and other appointments that you make to volunteers and boards and for volunteers that are serving on boards and committees. So the links to those two policies are included within the background section of this report. We also have included in the staff report that any changes would be ongoing with respect to review, particularly for the staff policy. The staff policy is also applicable to third-party service contractors, whereby the staff that are providing those services through those contracted firms would have to have staff vaccinated or would not be eligible to be providers for the town of Shelburne. So the majority of the proof of vaccination, as council is aware, was lifted by the province on March 1st. And this was for those that would be entering such establishments like retail and restaurants. And on March the 9th, the province of Ontario issued a new document entitled Living with and Managing COVID-19. And among those directions were the timelines under which other restrictions would be lifted. And on March the 21st, there were a number of wide-ranging adjustments. And in many places, that's where masking was removed from as a requirement for all entering the premises to wear. There were a number of other changes made that are taking effect April 27th, whereby all masking will be removed. Within the scope of the directions and the removal of some of the restrictions that were in place by not only the province, but under the orders of public health, it has been stated that those organizations, which include municipalities that have either masking requirements in place or vaccination policies, have the authority to continue to have those in place. So with respect to the removal of the vaccination in a number of municipal and public sector employers, I think it was a natural question from STEM staff on whether or not the council directions with respect to staff having a mandatory vaccination policy, again, affecting third-party contractors, would remain in place. So in order to have their input as a staff team for this report, we did a quick anonymous and confidential polling with two questions to staff. The first one, which is more applicable to this report. As well, going back in November of 2021, we had also asked staff if they would be willing to disclose in confidence their vaccination status. And at that time, 96% of our staff were fully vaccinated, and fully vaccinated at that point was two shots. And of our part-time staff, almost 96% was also vaccinated. So the feedback that we received from staff was that at this time, they would like to see the vaccination policy remain in place. 20 staff said yes, 9 said no. And we did also look at the vaccination policy directions of a number of other municipalities as of early March when we started preparing this report. And I've listed those that had indicated at that time that they are not going to remove or revoke or suspend other policies, namely the City of Guelph, the City of Toronto, the City of Orillia, and others. At that time, Ottawa was also not going to remove or suspend or rescind theirs, and they had such change. So effective April 4th, the City of Ottawa is suspending their mandatory policy. They're also in the midst of looking at returning unvaccinated staff back to the workforce. And the Toronto District School Board is taking the same approach. So as I've mentioned, with the input of staff, they would like to see, at least in terms of the numbers of responses we received, it continue. We also took the opportunity to ask staff what they felt about mandatory masking and continuing. And the input of staff was no, they would prefer to see it be voluntary and cautionary. And I think many organizations are calling it mask friendly. So this report has recommended that the vaccination policy remain in place, but be reevaluated in July, which is somewhat of a balanced approach. We have been able to secure complimentary and free rapid tests to date for any member of staff that fell within the policy that had to have the testing at least twice per week as a condition of employment. So we have been able to confirm this morning that we are able to continue to have access to complimentary ones, which we believe, based on the number of staff that are undergoing the testing, would carry us to at least July or August. So there's very little financial implications to the continuation. The one area that may create some challenges for us will be within RFPs, whereby if any firm that is considering remitting and may or may not have staff that can comply with the vaccination mandate, they may be then disqualified from being able to bid on those projects until this policy is revisited or suspended or discontinued. So I have suggested that council provide direction to staff with respect to your policy. I have intentionally used the word suspended as opposed to rescinded, as that gives you a little bit more flexibility to reinstate it in the event that you would like to see that. However, you also could rescind it as well. So that concludes the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Fegan and then Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Yeah, Denise, just out of curiosity, is there a possibility that we make an amendment to that? The only one that I'm hesitant on is those RFPs. If the province has already relieved all of those mandates and the companies that we are going out for RFPs decide they don't want to have those mandates in place, is there a possibility that we could incorporate allowing those companies still having access so that we could not limit our resources?
So thank you for your question, Councilor Fagan. Through the mayor, the way to accomplish that is that I could amend the town's policy to remove the section that applies to third-party contractors, since that was a CAO directive, and that the town's policy would be specific and exclusive to town staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mills. Yeah, I think I'd probably prefer to see it stay for third parties if they're going to be accessing our premises. And we're expecting staff, at least at this point, to continue to be vaccinated. I think there should be a measure of consistency, not inconsistency. But that's just responding to the comments that were made. But my question is with respect to the rapid testing being made available, for staff that qualify, that need to be tested every so often during the week. My question is that rapid testing available for council members already? And I've never inquired about it as to say, hey, listen, if I wanted it, because our positions are very front facing to the public. And so is that something that if any one of us wanted to come down to the office that we could get?
So through the mayor, thank you for your question. So the rapid tests that we provide are specifically and only for those staff that are unvaccinated. As a condition of their employment, they must be tested twice a week. So I am aware that for the public, and not that you're the public, but I mean, we could have to request additional tests as an employer. We currently get them through the Dufferin Board of Trade. I do know that many individuals, including myself, for example, just to make sure we had one on in the closet or in the cupboard, received one test, which has 5 tests from our local pharmacy. And I'm pretty sure that anybody that can access those, but we can certainly provide council with a link on what local pharmacies in town may have those on site. To your other question, if we as the employer can secure more, we're certainly happy to facilitate getting council one package each, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because I've tried to, I'm sure like with many others, tried to access these tests at pharmacies. And I think it was actually Councillor Wegner had pointed this out in one of our previous meetings. You could go to one pharmacy and it's $20, and you go to the next pharmacy and it's $40. And I don't think in the positions that we are in, that as councillors, we should be chasing down pharmacies with respect to these tests. So I think we should at least have one available to us, so that when we are meeting with the public, we could assure them and ourselves that we are protected and they are protected as well. So if that's possible, I think that would be prudent for members of council.
So what we'll do is we'll follow up, and then we'll let council know by email what's available. My understanding is that the standard price to purchase is $20, and that usually the test to have it administered at the pharmacy is $40. So certainly that is it's very expensive if someone's paying $40 for one test that you're administering at home.
Yeah, I paid $40 for that, unfortunately, on a couple of occasions. But anyways, I thank you for your assistance on that, Denise. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
With regards to the deputy mayor's question, I'll make available a minimum of 10 rapid antigen tests to each councillor member upon request immediately. We have a stockpile, and I have absolutely zero problem supplying tests to council members to support, and that way it's not costing the town any additional funds, and the tests that the town currently has can remain for the staff required.
Okay, much appreciated. You're sure that's not going to leave you short?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Well, I'll make my formal request right now then. Maybe you should just bring a stash down to the town hall just for everybody to access.
Yes.
They come in packs of 10. So the reality is, when you're going to the pharmacies, they're breaking down the larger packs into smaller packs. So you'll be receiving the 10 pack that comes as a whole. So if you're testing yourself twice a week, you're good for 5 weeks for the first pack.
Okay. Excellent.
And I certainly can drop off a quantity to the town for that purpose.
Okay. All right. Councillor Wegner.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Mills. I think everyone knows my my stance on this, as I've been very vocal about it in the past. So I won't bore anyone with the saying the same thing over and over again. The only thing I will comment on this is because I am a representative of the public, I would definitely say whatever we decide as a committee, or sorry, a council, to move forward with, that it in turn continues with all of us as councillors as well. So, there's no reason why the policy for us as councillors should change to not be what we are asking our staff to do. So, but again, you all know my stance on that. So I thank you very much for the time to speak.
Thank you. I tend to agree. I mean, whatever we decide with respect to staff, I think we should essentially hold ourselves to the same standard, whatever that is. Any other thoughts or comments before we start to try to narrow this down a little bit? No. Okay, so the recommendation with respect to the staff policy is basically to maintain status quo until July, when it will be revisited. That's based on the survey that was taken, and by my rough calculations, about 70% of staff had indicated that that would be their desire. I mean, for my part, I think tend to defer to staff and their wishes. They're the ones that are working in the environment. So far be it from me to try to tell them otherwise. But I do think that Councillor Fegan raised an interesting point. And it was something that was on my mind as well. And I'm just wondering if we can get some more clarity from Denise or perhaps from Jim. Any of the projects that are upcoming for which we will be issuing RFPs, are most of these outdoor projects, or are they going to be, projects that are, involved coming into town hall? Do we know offhand?
I can speak to that. I mean, there are some projects that obviously are capital, they're outside. The tennis court, the off-leash dog park, the Jack Downing Park renovation. So for example, we have services today because the elevator failed and we're going to be calling that firm. That one is an easy one because they're already on a contract which had that stipulation. There can be things where there are indoor needs. Yes, so we're not sure yet how that could preclude somebody, but it might.
Okay. I think sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just very quickly. I don't know if this is possible or it'd make things more challenging. Because my initial comment was if they're accessing the property, if we're going to go forward with the requirement for staff, and as Councilor Wegner, that should extend to council as well, then it only makes sense. But if it's going to be outdoors, is there a hybrid approach that we can take, that if it's indoors, that there's that requirement, but if it's outdoors, it's something that's different, that it's not required? Is that a possibility, or would that make it too difficult?
It's a bit muddied.
Okay. All right.
I mean, the majority of the contracts the big projects are outdoors, but the policy does not currently stipulate between, it's just if you're working on behalf of the town of Shelburne and have been awarded a contract, all people that are involved with the project representing your firm must be vaccinated. And that's no different than you had in construction positions in the past. Those were outdoor projects. It applied because those people can still get into vehicles. And that was the thinking in the past. So again, I mean, this could be, as we do some major projects, it may or may not be impacting those firms that may consider remitting.
It wasn't my intention to try to complicate this any further. My only thought was that, I mean, if we're sort of responding to the desire expressed by staff that 70% would like some policy still in place, if these projects aren't going to have any direct effect on staff, such that they're in close proximity, then it sort of is an easy out, but that doesn't sound like it's the case. Councillor Fegan.
Just another thought. I mean, it might not have to be part of the policy, but can we not have policies in regards to the property itself? For example, making a stipulation that to enter town hall, if we're going to have a mask mandate, then masks still must be worn. Can we not regulate it to a property easy enough without having it part of the policy? Is that a possibility?
Similar answer to your question before, Councillor Fegan. We could amend our policy to delete that and provide direction to all firms that if they're meeting with staff or on our property within physical buildings, they must be masked. That it's not an option then. But again, the way the policy is written, I honestly don't think, the reason I included that there was a risk associated with this was to imply that it was a negative risk for us and that it's something that could be detrimental to us, given that we have the right as an employer to retain it for ourselves.
Sure.
And that's why staff's input was there. But I don't believe that we see any problem, or I do not, if you wanted to amend the policy to remove contractors that are predominantly working in an outdoor environment from that restriction. to not jeopardize, firms that would otherwise maybe not consider working with us.
For me personally, I think that sounds like a viable alternative.
I think we can clarify it enough in the language of the policy that, I mean, if it's an outdoor, predominantly outdoor project, then they're sort of excluded from that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I think what I'll do in terms of procedure then, we'll read in the recommended motion, which essentially says that the staff policy will continue and be reevaluated in July 22nd. I'll go ahead and make this motion, and then and then we can tinker with it. And then in terms of the council and local board and committee option, we'll have similar language to say that it be continued, but to be reevaluated in July 2020 as well. And then I think once that motion's on the table, if somebody wants to offer an amendment to, create an exclusion for contractors, then we can consider that. So I'll make the original motion. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Fegan. Okay, are there any amendments then to that motion? Councillor Fegan.
I guess as per what Denise described, if we can make an amendment that third parties be excluded from that, subject to projects that are specifically to outdoors. Is that verbally acceptable? Would that cover us?
I think the intention is clear enough, so staff can hopefully craft something in the policy to reflect that. Denise, are you comfortable enough with that? I mean, ultimately, you're the one going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly, again, it's a delegated authority to me for this policy as an administrative policy, so I will amend it. We'll make that clear in the RFPs, and we'll get that changed probably by late tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Deputy Mayor Anderson. Okay. Any comments on the amendment first? Deputy Mayor Anderson.
I just wanted to confirm that Councillor Fegan's request previously about amending it, and then if they're going to be accessing the property, that they be wearing masks, that's going to be included in this amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the amendment specifically? Councillor Bernardo?
It wasn't on the amendment, it was on the general motion itself. I wanted to comment something on that.
Okay. Anything else on the amendment? No. Okay. All in favor of the amendment then? That's carried. Okay. Back to the main motion then as amended. Councillor Bernardo.
The one on the boards kind of, I was thinking about that. As a board member, the Shelburne members would be the only ones maybe wearing masks in a fairly well-placed room. And I'm thinking like us as fire board members, when we meet in that room, it's a fairly large room where we could space out quite a bit. And we'd be maybe the only members because the members of other municipalities that are participating may or may not wear masks. I think that I'm wondering if that should be maybe not necessarily in the policy, that may be left up to the individual members of the board to decide for themselves rather than forcing us to put on masks. Like I may or may not as a chair choose to wear a mask because I have to run the meeting. I do choose to wear a mask in most places currently. It's my choice, but that's where you leave it up to the individual to make the choice rather than forcing them into that choice.
I don't think our vaccination policy mandated mask wearing though, Mr. Bernardo. We spoke to vaccination.
So just to clarify, based on the questions from Councillor Fegan and the Deputy Mayor, the mask requirement for third party is specific to the staff and third party vaccination policy. The council policy is yours. There was not a requirement to wear a mask within the policy. That was a provincial health provincial requirement and moreover a public health directive in terms of an order. So what I've indicated is that we are still going to wear masks as staff voluntarily. We are going to put up signage that we are a mask-friendly town hall, similar to what other corporations have done. We will always wear masks when we are meeting with the public, those of us that choose to, and for our own protection. So we would suggest that councillors make your own determination whether you're mask friendly or whether you choose to not wear a mask within the environments indoor that you're attending. I should also note that the continuation of the council policy, if you are going to return to any kind of in-person meetings for committees, will impact the ability of the unvaccinated members of those committees to participate, of which there are quite a few. I think when you had the conversation originally, I think the conversation comment was that it's a moot point because we were all meeting, as were all committees, Zoom only. So your current policy will have impacts on people attending in person, which they will not be able to do with your current council policy if a return to in-person meetings is before July. Or I shouldn't even say before the policies are revisited.
Okay, so if you're not vaccinated, you cannot come to a board meeting or a council committee meeting if we're meeting in person, is what you're saying.
Yes, but not all board members are under the jurisdiction of the town of Shelburne, only those that are appointed by town of Shelburne council. And it's the same with the appointments to committees. We're in the process at the moment of reaching out as per the request of the DEI committee to fill 3 vacancies. So we have always advertised and indicated that all committee members, as per the requirement of the policy, which governs yourselves and committee appointments, requires those members to be vaccinated. And in the absence of the vaccination, there's the education, which is now done because it was over, and the requirement not to attend within the properties owned by the town of Shelburne. So that's another area where it's a bit muddied.
In light of that comment, Denise, and it's a good one, I think I'm going to suggest a minor amendment to the main motion, which I think should be a friendly amendment if everybody agrees. The part dealing with council and board policy that says it will be reevaluated in July, I think I would simply tack onto that or sooner by council, because if staff is bringing back a report addressing potentially, re-engaging in in-person meetings, that may very well be a part of that discussion. So I just don't want to tie council's hands in forcing us to wait until July to reconsider this, if that's something we want, to look at sort of within the context of the larger in-person meeting discussion. So, I mean, it basically just gives us the flexibility to kind of change course on this sooner than July if we deem that appropriate. Councillor Fegan, are you okay with that as a friendly amendment as seconder? Okay. All right, any other discussion on the main motion then? Okay, all in favor? Okay, all right, that's carried. Okay, next report is from our clerk regarding new sign or election sign bylaw. Jennifer.
Thank you, and through your worship. It became evident after last year's federal election that there was a need for some clarity on election signage. And currently within our current sign bylaw, identification of election signage is really only one section. So we've taken it a step further. We've drafted a complete encompassing election sign bylaw. It identifies safety and has identified sections that have been included that address safety for pedestrians and vehicular traffic. We're keeping the recommended timing for placement of signs at 45 days. And it does also note election signs are prohibited on properties used as voting locations where in-person voting is being conducted. So just a quick high-level overview that Staff are recommending section 3.043 within the current sign bylaw be deleted, and that bylaw 48-2005 be rescinded, just to provide some clarity for those that are trying to place election signage around, and this will apply to federal, provincial, and municipal elections. Happy to take any questions if you have any.
In terms of the upcoming municipal election, Jennifer, I'm assuming that we'll do something we've done in years past, and that is to have kind of a workshop for any of the candidates.
There is, sorry.
No, and
Sorry, there are some workshops being scheduled. I do have a further report coming to council with that information. There is a workshop being provided by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as well as a workshop being provided individually through private contractors, two locations, one in Orangeville and one in Shelburne. Those will be in May.
And I'm just thinking in terms of any, local specific issues such as the sign bylaw, just so that, all candidates are well aware of what the requirements are under the bylaw, so that, they're not inadvertently out there contravening the bylaw.
That's correct. Should this bylaw be enacted this evening, all municipal, federal, and provincial offices will receive a copy of this. Candidates for the municipal election will receive a copy in their candidates package. It'll be posted on our website.
Perfect. Okay. Councillor Fegan.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I just want to confirm that we aren't changing what we have already in regards to where signs can only be placed on private property rather than public property versus, for example, and I hate to use Orangeville as an example, but that's the comments that I get a lot from the community, is that it's nice to see that Shelburne doesn't get polluted with all kinds of signs all over the place. So with these amendments, we are not removing our restrictions that we already have. We're still keeping them. We're just clarifying what the rules specifically are.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Fegan. That's correct. We are also keeping that recommendation that election signage is not placed on public property, but more rather private property.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so the motion is to receive the report and to provide for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 15-2022, which is a new bylaw to manage and regulate election signs. And then further to revoke section 3.04 sub 3 within the existing bylaw number 30-1999 and rescind bylaw number 48-2005. Can I have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Fegan, second by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Carried. All right. Another report from our clerk.
And this is
use of town property during election campaigns.
Sorry, through your worship, I keep interrupting you. I apologize. This is a regulatory requirement under the Municipal Elections Act. And so while we do have within our council code of conduct, bylaw 03/2016, we do have a section in there that identifies use of corporate resources, but it doesn't identify use of corporate resources during a municipal election. And so what's brought for you this evening is being recognized as being required within the Municipal Elections Act. And this will also be provided to any new candidates within their candidate package. It will be posted on our website as well as to how municipal resources can be used during a municipal election. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Okay, any questions on this one? No. Okay, can I have a motion then to receive that report and to adopt the policy? Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Buffett. All in favor? Carried. All right, and the last item on the regular agenda is a request to raise the SIG flag from April 14th to the 29th. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Bonato. Seconded by Councillor Fegan. Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Carried. Any notices of motion for this evening? Okay. Any communication items that anybody wants to deal with? Councillor Bernardo?
Item number 5, I'm just wondering if we can communicate with the province to get a little bit more information on that. That's the transportation letter that we received for the Golden Horseshoe. I noted on reading the letter that they had quite a few projects in mind, and I'm wondering if any of those projects affect us as a community.
Denise?
Thank you for your question. We'll certainly follow up. Our understanding from the Golden Horseshoe, because we did actually assess that as we looked at the truck bypass originally, was it did not include the projections for the town of Shelburne within there, that we were, I think, in the 40 to 50 year project outline, and that it was not focused on this corridor or our area. It was literally more of a Southern Ontario approach, but we'll certainly follow up to see if there's anything within their existing program or identified capital initiatives that would involve Shelburne or any part of Dufferin County.
Yeah, I was more interested in Highway 10, especially the section that is not 4-lane between Primrose further down to Camilla. That if that was to be expanded to a 4.
So it might have just been me, but Councillor Bernardo cut out, but certainly that was part of the review, and we'll certainly follow up.
Okay. Sorry about cutting out.
That's okay. Anything else on that list? No. Okay. Can I have a motion then to receive all 11 items for information? Councillor Buffett, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson. All in favor? Carried. Okay, motion for confirming bylaw. Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Bernardo. All in favor? Carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Carried. Excellent. All right. Thank you all.